Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I'll be talking about a few important economics concepts that includes the definition of total product, average product and marginal product, the graphs between total product and labor, the graphs between average product, marginal product and labor, and also the law of diminishing returns. So let's start. I am Abir Mosharraf, studying in Civil and Environmental Engineering at Shahjahan University of Science and Technology. At first comes total product. The total product refers to the total quantity of goods produced by a firm during a given period of time with a given number of units. For example, if 5 laborers produce 6 kg of wheat, then the total product is 30 kg. A company can increase TP in the short term by focusing primarily on the variable components. But over time, both fixed and variable elements can be increased to raise TP. Now comes average product. The average product refers to output per unit of a variable input. For example, if the total product is 30 kg of wheat produced by 5 laborers, then the average product will be 30 divided by 5, that is 6 kg. Average product is calculated by dividing total product by units of the variable factor. So the formula of average product can be stated as the total product divided by labor. Then comes marginal product. Marginal product refers to the addition to a total product when one more unit of a variable factor is employed. It calculates the extra output per additional unit of input while keeping all other inputs constant. So the mathematical formula of marginal product is the derivative of total product with respect to labor. Now that we understand the definitions of all these products, let's move on to the graphs of these products versus labor. So here we have a data set containing the labor, total product, marginal product, and also the average product, and two graphs. The first graph states total product versus labor. Here in this graph, we can see that the labor is taken in the x-axis and total product in the y-axis. So initially, when there is no labor, there is no output, that is total product is 0. Now, after that, the total product curve gets an upward slope and it gets steeper. That is, it is increasing at an increasing rate. That is because at low levels of labor, adding workers raises output more than proportionality. That is because specialization and division of labor happens. Workers can specialize on different tasks and use fixed capital more efficiently. So, the total product curve increases. Now we come to the point of inflection. The point of inflection is where the total product curve changes its curvature from convex to concave. After the point of inflection, the total product is still increasing, but as more labor is added, each extra unit of labor adds less additional output than the previous one. So, the total product curve is increasing but at a decreasing rate. Here, the law of diminishing marginal returns is operating. We will be discussing about this law at the last part of our today's topics. Now comes the latter part of the graph where we can see the total product curve reaches its maximum. At that point, the most efficient balance of labor and resources is done. So, the total production of the firm becomes maximum. After the total production point, one more worker adds 0 net output. So, if we keep on adding more and more labor, it overcrowds the fixed inputs, so total output falls down, and that is why the total product curve declines. Let's take the example of a bakery. In a bakery, if we have 5 ovens, then at best 5 workers can do the most efficient work in there. But if a 6th worker is added, then that worker will start interfering with the works of the other 5 workers, and so, though more labor is added, the total production will decrease. Now let's move on to the graphs of marginal product and average product versus labor. At first, let's talk about the graph of marginal product and labor. The marginal product starts rising at low labor because adding an extra worker increases output a lot. They can do specialization, teamwork, and better use of machines. So marginal product rises initially. Then the marginal product reaches a maximum at the point of inflection of the total product curve. Here, each worker contributes the most. Then the marginal product curve declines. That is because as more labor is added, fixed capital becomes a bottleneck. Additional output from each extra worker falls down. This is also the law of diminishing marginal returns. Then, as the marginal product curve keeps falling down, it becomes zero when the total product is maximum. That is because when the total product is maximum, then the derivative of total product with respect to labor also becomes maximum. That is, one additional input increase will not produce any more additional amount of output. After that, we can see the marginal product curve becomes negative. That is because we cannot see any more rise in the total amount of production. Now let's come to the last topic of our graph, that is average product versus labor. We see that the average product curve also rises at the very first. That is because as labor increases, output per worker improves because of specialization and fuller use of fixed inputs. Then the average product curve reaches a maximum when marginal product and average product curve becomes equal. So here we can see that when the MP is greater than AP, then the AP is pulling upward. But when the MP is less than AP, then it drags AP downward. So we can say that the marginal product curve cuts the average product curve at the maximum point of the average product curve. Then the average product curve reaches its maximum point when a ray from the origin is tangent to the total product curve. After that, we can see that the average product curve starts to fall down. That is because with too many workers, each worker on average produces less because capital is limited. So the average product curve rises at first, reaches a peak, then declines. Now, let's come to the relationships between all these products. We can see that the relationship between total product and marginal product is that the total product keeps increasing at an increasing rate up to the point of inflection. Then the total product is increasing at a decreasing rate until the total product maximum. And when the total product is increasing at an increasing rate, the marginal product is also increasing. At the point of inflection of the total product curve, marginal product becomes maximum, and the total product curve, when it is increasing at a decreasing rate, the marginal product keeps on decreasing. At the total product maximum point, the marginal product is zero. When the total product declines, then marginal product becomes negative. All this was made clear in the graphs that was demonstrated earlier. Now let's talk about the relationship between total product and average product. The average product increases till the point where a ray from the origin becomes a tangent to the total product curve. At that tangential point, the average product is maximum, but after that tangential point, the average product is declining. Now let's talk about the relationship between AP and MP. At AP max, AP and MP becomes equal, but before AP max, AP is a greater value than marginal product, and after AP max, the AP is a greater value than the marginal product, and before AP max, the AP is a lesser value than the marginal product. Now we move on to the last topic of our today's presentation, and that is the law of diminishing returns. This law states that when at least one input is fixed, it can be capital, then adding more of a variable input that, like labor, eventually leads to a smaller increases in output, holding all the inputs constant. That is, after a certain point, each extra worker contributes less and less additional output than the previous one. Why it happens? It happens because at first we can say that fixed resources like capital, machines, land, tools are limited. Then adding too many workers causes overcrowding and inefficiency. And at last, there is a limit of specialization of these workers. When the worker amount was less, the workers could specialize and output rises faster. But later, too many workers sharing the same fixed capital makes the output per extra worker fall down. So the marginal product of each unit of input will decline as the amount of that input increases, holding all other inputs constant. This law can be observed in the graph of MP and TP, where when MP rises, TP also rises at an increasing rate, but MP falls down but remains positive when the total product rises at a decreasing rate. But MP becomes less than 0 and the total product also falls down as too many workers create inefficiency. So that is all for today's topics. If you face any kind of problem, then be sure to leave a comment down and I will be checking the comment box to solve any kind of problem that you face. I hope everybody finds this video helpful, and that will be all from me today. I hope you can like, comment, share and subscribe my video if you find it helpful. Thank you everyone.